Hey guys, Blake here. So I'm starting a new video series called Estimator Pass or Fail. Now, what this video series is going to be is a lot of transparency. So we have a tool in the HornScore app called the Estimator Tool. Some of you may have found it, some of you may not have. Now, it's a beta technology that we're experimenting with. What it allows you to do is draw an anatomical reference or references. You can draw one or multiple. It then creates a number of pixels and allows you to go draw scoreable measurements, tine lengths, main beams, inside spread, etc., horn lengths. It's an awesome technology, but it doesn't come without its limitations. So if you look on the app, right when you click into the Estimator tool, there's a video that says, please watch this video. If you've never used it, I highly recommend it. It goes through some of the limitations. Now, when I say there's limitations, what that means is sometimes the tool is incredible and it's extremely useful, and other times it's frustrating. And the reason is there's a lot of factors that go into getting the most out of it. Now, having said that, once you understand how it works, what the limitations are, you can get a great deal of value. I know, for example, Jay and I, Jay's old school, does it his way, and he's very good at it. And then you have me being younger, wanting to get into the techie side of things, and I love to leverage it. And I think that some of you guys will really find a lot of value in it. So what we're going to start doing is I'm going to make videos and I'm going to use the Estimator tool how I would in real life scenarios. And what that means is I'm not always going to measure every point. I'm going to use it as if I was actually trying to evaluate that animal. I'm going to use animals with known scores, but I'm not going to look at the scores before I do it. So this is going to be a recurring video series that I'm going to do. We're going to get started today with a whitetail, and I'll kind of walk through why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I'm measuring certain anatomicals, points, and then we'll see at the end how accurate it is. So we're going to do these really transparently, and if it's not good, we'll try and figure out why, because I think you guys can gain a lot of value from that. If it is good, hopefully you'll get some value out of why I chose the anatomicals I did, why I chose to draw the points when I did. I think this will start to shed some light on how this tool works and really benefit you guys long term as you start to implement this in your own field judging. So here we go. We're going to get started on this whitetail. All right, guys, so this is one of our whitetail practice videos. And if I were to scroll to the end of this video, I would see the score. Now, I'm not going to do that. I honestly don't remember what this score is. We're just going to try and use the Estimator tool on this buck. And obviously I don't have every angle on this video, but I'm gonna leverage what I can and try and get the most out of it. Because if you've watched some of our previous content, one thing is I don't draw bad lines, meaning if it's a tine length that's curving towards me or I can't get a good drawing of that, I just won't do it. I'll use my eye because my eye can better compensate for things that don't exist, meaning the Estimator tool is giving you the value of a line, not necessarily an antler or a horn. So wherever you draw that line is what it's gonna spit out. So if I'm not capturing the curvature or the true orientation of that horn or antler, I'm not going to get a good value. And that's also true for anatomicals as well. So let's go ahead and dive in. And then we'll compare it to the known at the very end and see how we do. So we're going to hit the ... go into the Estimator tool. This is the video that I highly recommend you watch if this is your first time using this tool. All right, so the first thing we got to do is make our keyframes. And I'm going to make one on this looking away frame because I don't think I ever get this buck facing me in this video. So this would be my only chance to maybe get inside spread, and it wouldn't be ideal because it's tough to make out. I'm kind of looking through the P2s and the P3s to see it. I mean, arguably I could maybe get it right there, so we'll drop one more. I always just make a bunch of keyframes in the start. This is probably my best angle right here of the buck, so I get this kind of almost broadside with the head. And when I say broadside, quartered away, I'm talking about the head in these, generally speaking, not necessarily the whole body. And then I kind of get them again, looking away. And what I'm doing is I'm looking for curvature. I'm trying to see what points I can get. And this obviously isn't a super expansive video. It's short. It's only 10 seconds, and I don't get that many angles. I'm also looking for clarity in the video. So right there, because this video obviously is a little bit fuzzy, but it's realistic. I'm trying to make out the eye guards there as best I can. They're kind of blending in with the yellow grass, but I can see that left one right there. All right, so let's see. Anything else there? Maybe that right P2 kind of right there. Already kind of have that one. So that's kind of all the angles I can get on this. This buck, just the first things that stick out to me using the tool is this buck has a lot of curvature in his main beam, so I'm not even going to try using the Estimator tool for the main beams. Now, the first thing I need to do is draw an anatomical reference. And you can kind of look through our list here. We have eye width, ear tip to ear tip. Not going to be able to use that one. Length of ear from base to tip. I can always remember hit this plus button if I want to come back and look. So here's one example where I didn't get this picture, but I don't have a lot of good anatomical references here because the eye to nose is the most obvious one to me, but he's so quartered away that I know that's going to distort that measurement. What I can get pretty decent right here is this ear length. Ear length isn't my favorite to use because it's hard to make out exactly where the ear starts and finishes, but you know, in this video, that's probably the best one that I have. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this frame right here. I'm just using the arrows to cycle side to side. And we're gonna go length of ear from base to tip. We can click on it, see a picture. This is obviously the front side of the ear. I know this buck is from Kansas, I believe. And I don't really, to be honest, I don't know what the average, I don't know enough about the anatomicals of bucks in Kansas, so I'm going to kind of fall towards the average there. So I'm sliding this. It'll default to the average. Let's say the average is 8, so we'll go 8 inches. I don't know enough to use otherwise on this particular buck. So we'll hit this plus button on the length of ear from base to tip. I'm going to zoom in as much as I can, and the base is going to be, you know, roughly right there. And I'm going to zoom in because the more I zoom, the better, even though it looks real fuzzy and crappy, I can make out the pixels of the tip of that ear better when I'm zooming in more and get more accurate references. So now I'm going to hit save reference line. Another one I could maybe use would be the ear width here. That would be another one. So I could even double it up, and sometimes that'll help your values if you use 2 anatomicals. And I'm not sure for whitetail specifically, but generally speaking, I've found ear width to be a pretty darn consistent anatomical across, you know, elk, mule deer, pronghorn, Coues whitetail, and what I've seen. So I try and use that one a lot. I really like the inside of eye when I have it, but I don't have it in this one. All right, so now we're gonna hit the score values button, and I'm just kind of looking through my keyframes. So if I look at that buck's left side, so this left, let's see, that's gonna be the P2, that's gonna be the P3, the P4. That P3 looks like it's forking or kind of curving towards the inside spread, so I'm guessing that's going to be a little distorted. The first one that looks like I can get the best would be this right, let's see what I got here. This right P2 I can see pretty good, right P3. Right here I can see this right, I believe that's the P3, so we're going to hit that one first. And what I try and do is draw the ones I can see the best first, so I can start to test my measurements. And what I mean by that is, you'll see here in a second. We're going to see if it passes my eye test. So I'm drawing this line down, add point, 10.36, and I may get a little more down to the base, so 10.71. I'm going to hit save length to score. That looks about like a 10.7 inch line to me. I would say that's probably pretty darn close. This left P3 it's going to be, because that's the P1 right there, that's going to be the P2 and the P3. So right here I can see this left P1, P2 really good. So I can see the P2 better than I can see the P1. So I'm going to draw that first, the left P2. We're going to zoom in here, get it out there on the tip. Now this looks shorter than that one I just drew on the right side, so I'm guessing we're going to come out about 7 inches based on the estimator. Looks like 8 inches. That's kind of passing the eye test. And I think this would be the tip of the P3 right here. So we're going to come in here to the P3. Now just a reminder, this tool obviously works better and better the better that your video quality is, but we don't always have perfect video quality. So I want to make these videos as, you know, realistic as possible. 9.75. I think it's hard to tell with that fuzz, but it might be a touch lower to the base of the main beam there. So we're going to hit save length to score there. And let's see what else I got here for angles. Man, not a whole lot. I could maybe draw this left P4 right here. So I have the left P4, and I think that's grass, so I think that's the tip there. But I mean, you know, you're always subject to quality of video, whether you're using the estimator tool or your eye. And we're gonna draw that out saying 7.99. Perfect. So I've got a pretty good sample size here of things, you know, those eye guards. The nice thing about video versus these keyframes is the video allows you to move it back and forth. And so sometimes if I'm unsure of what I'm looking at, I'll just kind of scroll this video. What I'm trying to do is make out the tines a little bit more clearly. And like right there, I can almost see that, but I know I'm not gonna be able to get those fourths quite right just because of the angle. So the only other angle I really had that I haven't really played with was that looking away perspective, and I don't really get much else there. So in reality, if I'm looking at this and using this tool on this buck, this is about as many points as I'm going to get on this particular buck. I'm not going to try the main beam. I'm not going to really use the spread. I'd almost rather use my eye just because of the distortion. But we can try it for fun here. I don't know if it's going to be very close because it's really challenging to tell where the inside spread actually is. But I'm guessing, you know, that's about the widest point on the inside of the main beams to roughly there. So that's saying 14.44. Not super confident on that measurement just because it's hard from this backside to see if I drop those points in the right spot. But this gives me a good starting point. And sometimes that's what the estimator tool does. Sometimes it's a tool for confirmation. Sometimes it's a secondary perspective. You know, it just depends how you want to leverage this. But I rarely get every measurement on an animal unless I have just, and you can never measure mass on the estimator tool. So that's important to remember because for antlered animals in particular, you're way better off to use the sum of the 4 mass measurements. And it's also very hard to turn a very tiny linear line into a circumference measurement with a drawing or estimating tool. And no matter what, you always want to use your eye. You never want to use this in a vacuum by itself. But enough of that. Let's see how we did. So once I'm done, I would hit this back to calculator button. And you can see that I measured the left P2, P3, P4, and the right P3, and then I got the inside spread. Now, since we haven't looked at the numbers yet, if I was confident in these numbers and everything looked good, this gives me a great starting point of having some known values and now being able to come in here and look through this buck and then use my eye to make adjustments. Like I did not get the right P4, but using my eye, it looks like that right P4, you know, is roughly the same length as the left, and then I can start to work off of that. So all the measurements I didn't get, I could now go use my eye if I'm confident on these estimations. So we're going to go over to the end. Now it's time to see how we did. All right, so let's start. Left P2 is actual 8 4/8, and we put in 8, so pretty darn good. The left P3 is 9 5/8. We got 10 2/8 on the estimator. I'm perfectly happy with, you know, 6/8 or 7/8 of an inch off, whatever that is. And then the right side is 10 6/8. I got 10 6/8, so it nailed it. That's awesome. The fourth on the left side is 8 inches, and we got 8 inches, so it also nailed it there. So that's really, really good. And then we have the inside spread, which is actual 16 1/8. I got 14 4/8. Still pretty close. I'm not really sure if I dropped the points right, like I said earlier in the video. So I'd be super satisfied with this. And now, you know, let's assume we didn't know these numbers. I would then use these few measurements because I took the ones that I thought I could get the best. And it's easy for me to use my eye to look for, you know, symmetries now. So like that left P2 is 8. It's easy for me to look over and see if the right looks pretty symmetrical. In this case, it would. I mean, this buck's pretty darn symmetrical in his tine lengths. And then I'd be using my eye to estimate the main beam. We're still working on some creative ways to give you guys the ability to measure the main beam. It's just hard because it curves so many directions at different points in the beam, particularly for whitetails. You know, for elk, it's much more manageable. But for deer species, it can be pretty challenging. But we have tons of information in the calculator with average information to help you. And this buck's got, you know, pretty good beams, so I would do it that way. Typically, I already looked at the measurements, so there's no point in doing it now. And then the eye guards, the only reason I didn't measure those is I can see them as I'm scrolling the video, but in those still frames, it was, you know, relatively challenging. I mean, you can see that the left is clearly longer than the right, but that would be a bit more of a rough guess. So overall, I would say this is a definite pass. All those values are really close. We're going to be making a bunch of these, so keep your eye out. Hopefully you'll pick up some useful tips on, you know, I've probably used this tool more than anybody, and I know how I get the most value out of it, and I want to share that with you guys, and hopefully that passes some value along to you and this allows you to be a little bit more accurate and precise in your field judging. Thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for the next one.